Good evening everyone, my name is Katie Shute and I have just finished my Masters at Oxford Brookes University. I've been studying there architecture with a specialisation in development and emergency practice. Today I'm going to be talking about tradition and culture in post-disaster reconstruction in Tamil Nadu in southern India. So my interest in this research stemmed from some field work that I did alongside some other students from Oxford Brookes in January 2012. We visited the Nagapattinam district and worked with tsunami-affected communities, particularly asking them about sort of long-term impacts of the tsunami. So before I kind of get into it, I thought I'd define some of the things I'm going to be looking into. It's basically been argued that there's a need to acknowledge the heterogeneity of cultural traditions, many of which are threatened by sort of modern society and globalisation. Also, I'm going to be looking at things like traditions and vernacular. Vernacular housing has evolved over time, often to meet the needs of the inhabitants of a certain region, and it's often well adapted to withstand hazards, as can be seen by the traditional reconstruction that was used after the Pakistan earthquake in Kashmir in 2005. Traditional houses in Tamil Nadu predominantly constructed using local materials, that's thatch, mud, brick, and sort of local tiles. They're well adapted to the climate with steep thatched roofs, and due to large families in the area, a lot of the houses are made up of large rooms as well, so that the families can conduct their activities there. A lot of things are also conducted outdoors, as you can see, washing, cooking. The houses are on spacious plots which are fenced in, and these are shaded, which are provided by lots of trees in the area. Another tradition is that women take an active role in construction. A lot of the construction of new houses is very culturally sensitive, and it's a ritualised process. There's strong links to local livelihoods in these fishing communities and social security. The women take an active role because the men are often out doing their fishing activities. So, 2004 tsunami, I'm sure many of you will know about it. It was 9.2 on the Richter scale. There was extensive damage to infrastructure and assets. In Tamil Nadu alone, there was a total loss of $868 million. And out of all of the houses that were lost or damaged, 80% belonged to fishing communities. So the post-tsunami reconstruction received $13.5 billion in terms of donations, and was described as the Red Cross as quite an overfunded disaster. But despite this, the government didn't actually take much importance in doing a damage assessment. The government of India, before the tsunami, had classified housing typologies, one of which is a catcher, seen in the photo here, which they translate as raw or weak, and then paka is what they advocate for, which means mature or strong. So the catcher houses are the vernacular, and the paka are sort of more modern concrete blocks. After the tsunami, the government implemented a lot of standards and policies where they wanted to take a contractor-driven approach, looking for sort of mass reconstruction programs over a more participatory, owner-driven approach using some of the ritualised processes I was talking about before. Another decision that the government of India made was to upgrade a lot of houses in the area that weren't even damaged or affected by the tsunami. They mistranslated the word catcher to actually mean temporary, so a lot of the agencies working in the area thought that a large percentage of the homes there were just temporary shelters, and decided to destroy them to build these new settlements. As you can see in the maps here, these sort of pre and post tsunami layouts of the villages are completely different. The houses used to be on very spacious plots with lots of trees, and then they turned into these sort of very, tightly packed city-like villages almost. A sort of vision of some of the NGOs was to build a small city, and you can see that the character and appearance of it completely changed. The idea was to build these core units that could be extended over time, but unfortunately problems of land and things like that meant that they were packed together very tightly. So the traditional, the new houses that were built, were reinforced concrete cement with a flat roof, terrace. They were built very closely to each other, and the houses were also divided into quite small rooms, which meant that some of the larger families couldn't even fit into one room together when they're conducting their activities like cooking and things like that. Another problem was that these houses were very unsuitable for the local climate. They became very hot, and due to like no shade of trees and things, the temperatures inside became unbearable, and a lot of the trees had been destroyed at the time, so there was no places around them for people to gather. There was also problems of loss of privacy, particularly for women, because people were used to going to the toilet outside their house. As I mentioned before, the sort of loss of trees meant that there wasn't spaces for community gathering, which is where a lot of the fishermen and the sort of women as well had gathered. And then this led to problems of reduced interaction, alienation, estrangement among neighbours. So you can see there's a whole load of sort of psychological problems that have resulted in the long-term sort of impact. So the idea, obviously, of the government and of the NGOs that were working in this area was that they felt that building back with concrete was going to be more sustainable, more stronger to withstand tsunamis and hazards in the future. But in actual case, the long-term impacts have been felt by the communities, and they've suffered oppressive temperatures within their houses, and their ways of life have completely changed as a result. Just that's something to think about. Thank you very much.